Members of Congress are apparently trying to do a bait and switch with you when it comes to a second stimulus check. Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check and stimulus package update today, our fourth of 4 updates. This one focuses on the Federal Reserve and what Congress has done and hasn't done, and may have already done a bait and switch on you when it comes to a second stimulus check. Here's the rant and the details. Back in March, when the pandemic was starting to hit, members of Congress, when they initially were debating the CARES Act, said that they were going to give you several checks. At that time, they understood that the pandemic would cause a lockdown of American citizens for several months. So they understood you needed to be paid for each month you were on lockdown. Eventually, you were on lockdown for several months. But when the CARES Act was approved in March, they didn't deliver as they promised. Rather, what they said was, we're going to give you one check, and then we'll take care of the other checks shortly thereafter. But they didn't. Ultimately, you went on a lockdown in March. You couldn't work. You couldn't pay your bills. You couldn't make your rent. And what did Congress do? Well, they gave you one stimulus check in March, which you may or may not have received. And ultimately, when April came around, they did nothing. You were on lockdown in April. You were unable to make money. You were unable to pay your bills. And what did Congress do? Nothing. When May came around, what did Congress do? Again, nothing. When the CARES Act was debated, they had represented and warranted to the American public that they would take care of you as the lockdowns were in place. And then as the lockdowns continued, you would be paid a stimulus check for each respective month. They didn't. They said they would get to that later. And ultimately, they did not. When the CARES Act was approved in May, after you had been on lockdown in March and April, they didn't give you multiple months of checks. They said that they would take care of it later. Well, what they did take care of was their vacation holiday. Members of Congress are going on vacation later this week again, and they're going on vacation nearly the entire month of July until late July, while you struggle to make ends meet. They come back and work from late July to approximately August 8th, really just a few days of work. And guess what they do again? You guessed it. They go on vacation again. So what's going on here? The problems are actually getting quite worse by members of Congress. The reason why is the following, and here is the minutia and the details. When Congress reconvenes in late July, they will be looking at data from this Thursday. This Thursday's data is the June jobs numbers. The problem is that most analysts think that the July jobs numbers are far worse. So what is members of Congress going to do? They're going to look at a decent month, May, and potentially a flat month, June, and try to ostensibly, potentially, argue against a second stimulus package by saying things are so great, when in fact, while they were on vacation in July, things got bad. The problem is the delay of data. Data comes in different prescribed periods, and so ultimately, jobs numbers are reported once per month. The June numbers are the ones they're going to be working off of. They won't be working off the July numbers. They, at the moment, seem to be ignoring jobless claims, which is really a big indicator. Why? Last week, jobless claims passed 1 million for the 14 consecutive weeks. These are people asking for unemployment assistance. 1 million for the 14th consecutive week. These are people who need that $600 from the federal government FPUC. Earlier this week on Tuesday, Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, and Jerome Powell, head of the Federal Reserve, appeared before members of Congress. And Jerome Powell actually said one of the most impressive statements I have heard this entire month about the second stimulus package, which was the following sentence, just a few words. Debt on top of debt doesn't always work. And that's exactly what's going on. A lot of members of Congress and the Federal Reserve and the White House keep on talking about debt, giving you debt, giving you loans, giving you interest rates, giving you things collateralized. If you're new to this channel, I appreciate your support. There's been so many new of you in the last couple days. You may not have seen our videos that were really quite popular a month ago, which talked about avoiding collateralization. Viewers of this channel who are my OGs learned when getting loan offers through the first stimulus package, what was called the EIDL loan, not to collateralize them. The collateralization level was $25,000 or less, and so vast majority of viewers of this channel followed my advice and exactly chose $24,900 so that they were not collateralized. But it still seems to continue. Members of Congress and the Fed want to keep on collateralizing you with big debt. Yesterday, the Federal Reserve actually admitted that the Main Street lending program, which we detailed yesterday, is a flop. People don't like it. They don't like the debt terms. They don't like the debt obligations. They don't like anything about it. And yet, viewers of this channel could have told the Federal Reserve that 2 weeks ago. Are they blind? Are they not listening? The number one statement was that, how dare you offer a loan amount that starts at $250,000? People don't need $250,000. Now, they need more than $1,000, but they don't need $250,000. Well, the Federal Reserve issued a release today, their minutes from a June 9 to June 10 meeting. And it says that they seek to highly accommodate the American public going forward on the second stimulus package. I have to yawn there, because is that just a lot of hot air again, Federal Reserve? Why am I saying this? It's the following. The Federal Reserve allocated trillions of dollars to financial assistance for you for the pandemic back in March, and has used a microcosm of it to date, literally almost none of it. It's just sitting there. So what's going on, Fed? They're talking about keeping borrowing rates at 0%. I mean, that's great. Jovita Carranza, head of the SBA, wants you to lend at 3.75%. But this is what they said. The current stance of monetary policy remains appropriate, and we will continue to accommodate monetary policy for some time. Most participants commented the committee should communicate a more explicit forward guidance for the path of federal funds rates and more clarity regarding purchase of Treasury securities. Basically, everyone's telling the Fed, start giving stimulus packages to the American public and stop holding the money and dangling like a carrot. What the Fed basically had done was envision a program, a second stimulus package, and a second because it wasn't launched in the first. It was talked about far before the first stimulus package. It was talked all the way back in March, but it only went live a week ago. When I say live, it was offered a week ago, but currently only 300 banks have signed up for it, and not a single individual has gotten a penny from it. So what's going on? Ultimately, what's going on is a bait and switch and a pat on the back. The Federal Reserve needs to admit that their Main Street lending program, which is what I'm referring to, is a flop. No one wants it. No one needs it. It's badly written, and it doesn't solve the problems that are at hand. The Fed needs to admit that there's billions, if not trillions, and I apologize earlier in the stimulus package. The first one I said trillion, when I said billion instead of trillion, I'm always messing that up. The Federal Reserve has trillions allocated for COVID-19 stimulus relief, hasn't used it. So what's going on? members of Congress not wanting to give you money, taking vacations, trying to use economic data to manipulate the numbers, it's very disconcerting. As this channel has said with our metaphor over and over again, come this fall, there's going to be a Bugs Bunny moment. And we hope that you don't fall into that rabbit hole. Members of Congress are going to take a carrot and dangle it over you and say, here's your stimulus check, and you're the rabbit, you're Bugs Bunny, vote me in the polls, vote me when you go into the polling booth, re-elect me. Don't re-elect them. Their stimulus check should have arrived in your account or in your mailbox in April for March, in May for April, in June for May, in July for June. Instead, they've taken 2 vacations. They're taking more vacations. The Federal Reserve's money is still sitting over there, wherever it is, in that bank, and not is being used for you. And everyone's talking about, let me lend you some money at horrible interest rates, and I can collateralize against you. And you know what? If you don't meet the obligations, we're going to come and collect. Why the viewers of this channel responded so well to our videos about collateralization were very simple. The collateralization terms for an economic injury disaster relief loan, this is a loan in a disaster, said that if you don't meet your loan obligations, they can take your bank accounts, your savings accounts, your equipment, your cars, anything you use to run your business, whether it's a goods business or service business. Bait and switch. In time of need, you need help. In time of need, you need checks. In time of need, you need action. You're getting none of that. All you're getting is a lot of hot air. And whether it's the Main Street Lending Program, which is it is a flop of all flops, or a bunch of senators who are in the jacuzzi in the Bahamas, sipping margaritas and singing tunes off key, it doesn't work because you need help and you need relief now. Today we detail 4 stimulus check videos. The first one was the president, who says he wants the money to get into your hands quickly, in large amounts, and without complication. The question is whether everyone agrees with him and whether that's going to happen. If you have questions in today's video, drop them in comments below and we may feature them in tomorrow's recording. As always, stay life.